If you wanted to see great art, you would probably go to a museum. But what if someone brought the art to you?
Kent Twitchell has done just that. He is perhaps the most recognized and respected outdoor urban muralist in the world. He has been painting enormous portraits on the walls of this city for almost a quarter of a century. Welcome to Los Angeles. I'm Margie Moore.
I'm Richard Jacobson. We're going to take a special behind-the-scenes look at a master artist and his works, including his latest, his dream mural featuring actor Charlton Heston as the quintessential American cowboy.
After serving in the Air Force as an illustrator, Kent Twitchell came to Los Angeles in 1966. He had the opportunity to paint his first mural on a friend's house and decided to pay tribute to Hollywood and his favorite star, Steve McQueen.
I loved Steve McQueen. He was the coolest of all the cool guys there was. So I found a poster and did my sketch from that. And first time I'd ever done it so big, I actually did it on butcher paper. That was my first blues. I wanted this blue ghostly figure coming out of this house. It was almost like a house that was personified.
The Steve McQueen mural was featured in newspapers and magazines all over the world. Rarely had anyone seen this kind of detail and personality on such a large scale.
Soon, the owner of a Hollywood junk store asked Twitchell to paint a mural on the side of his building. Twitchell found a photograph from Sam Peckinpah's movie The Wild Bunch and began painting another Hollywood favorite, actor Strother Martin.
Strother Martin was my favorite bad guy in the movies. I'd watched him for years. I would go to movies that he would only have about 3 minutes in and sit through the whole movie just for the 3 minutes I would have to watch Strother Martin. I just loved him. So I started painting Strother Martin there from an old photograph I had found in one of those Hollywood stores from The Wild Bunch. I had taken just a section of it off and drawn it and sort of graphicked it out. I paint my murals a little bit differently than the traditional mural in that you can zero in on the detail in my work and see kind of the macro and the microcosmic aspects of the universe. I see the universe as being designed, obviously. I'm in sort of the course of maybe 3/4 repainted now.
In 1974, as part of a mural program, Kent Twitchell created what was to become one of his most popular murals, for which he was paid $153.47.
The mural featured actress Lillian Bronson and was an homage to Twitchell's great-grandmother. Unfortunately, in 1986, the owner of the building arbitrarily and illegally painted over the mural with an advertisement. Twitchell is now in the process of restoring it. In the meantime, the freeway lady lives on through photographs.
It was an excuse to do something that I'd wanted to do, which is to paint a stately old woman, well past retirement age, but still looking very vital and alive. Sort of the opposite of a euthanasia kind of statement, you know. And I wanted it on a freeway so that we could ponder it as we would go by, so busily going about our day, doing, you know, late for nap, you know, rushing by. The mural was painted out. And there was such an outrage by the community. It was unbelievable. I had no idea that she was, I know she was well liked, but no idea she was liked that well and that universally.
When the freeway lady was painted over, the community was incensed. The public outcry led to a court decision allowing Twitchell the right to oversee full restoration of the mural.
In 1972, Twitchell designed a mural to cover the lower 2 stories of the second largest bridal shop on the West Coast. The design so pleased tuxedo business owner Carlos Ortiz that he asked Twitchell to paint the entire 5-story building.
The person who came to me, I had painted the Steve McQueen and the Strother Martin, and he came by while I was painting the Strother Martin in '71 and told me that he had a bridal shop. It turned out to be the second largest bridal shop in the West Coast. and he had a building and wanted to know if I could do something pictorial on the building rather than him having a sign in downtown Los Angeles. And so I said, sure. And so I gave him an outline, a sketch of what I wanted to do. He wanted to do it 2 stories high underneath the previous sign. There are 2 reasons the bride and groom is in blues. One is that in downtown Los Angeles during that time there wasn't a lot of blue sky, and I thought that they could use a big patch of blue. And the other reason was that I wasn't really comfortable enough yet doing full color stuff. Although Star of the Martin was still monochromatic, it was flesh tones and reds and yellows and oranges and browns and blacks. But I didn't want it to look like an ad. I was afraid that it would look like just a regular ad. So I knew there wouldn't be an ad all monochromes, full monochrome, black through white, but going through the blue shades. And it would sort of push it out from everything else.
The bride and groom mural took Twitchell 4 long years to complete, working mainly at nights and on weekends. The result was a mural of incredible proportions. Once again, Twitchell had set himself apart by portraying individual personality on a vast scale.
In 1977, Twitchell was a graduate student at the Otis Art Institute in Los Angeles. His mentor, Charles White, the great black painter, encouraged him to paint a mural on a building at the Institute. The result was a religious piece so controversial, it had all of Los Angeles talking.
There was this beautiful wall, an ideal mural wall on the west wall of the main classroom building at Otis Art Institute, 1977. And I decided that I wanted to do my first underground religious piece on that. A piece which I was to call the Holy Trinity with the Virgin. So I chose Jan Clayton, who lived in my town. She was the mother on the original Lassie television series in the 50s. And she was the Virgin Mary because there was no husband. She was chaste, and probably the most archetypal mother of television. Then for Jesus Christ, I used Bud Anderson, The Father Knows Best, because he was the son of the father who knew best, Billy Gray. So I contacted Billy Gray and explained it to him. He fell over laughing. He thought it was a great idea, so he posed for me as Jesus. And for God the Father, nobody else but the Lone Ranger, because no one has ever seen the face of the Lone Ranger and lived. And it was consistent. I mean, I really did a lot of research and the whole thing, but I never told anybody what the title was. That was my own personal thing, unless they asked, of course. I'm not going to lie to them. And when it was finished, the Los Angeles Times came and did their piece on it, and then they asked, they did the article, writing down the notes, and then they asked me, oh, by the way, what do you call it? And I said, the Holy Trinity with the Virgin. And he looked at me and said, what? And then he ripped up his notes and started all over again. And when they had the article in the paper, there was a big controversy, and people were writing into the Institute and insisting that it be painted out. So I told the dean, Peter Clothier, no problem, I don't want to cause any trouble for the school, I'll paint it out. And suddenly he got very upset and didn't want to paint it out, and his higher self kicked in. If I wanted to say that these represented God the Father, God the Son, and the Virgin Mary, I'm sure that I have a right to do it still. I mean, that may not always be the case in America, but it certainly was then.
Holy Trinity with the Virgin was named after a 15th century altarpiece of the same title. Twitchell had learned that, like great artists before him, he could evoke thought, action, and feeling from an observer. He had discovered that his art could make a statement, and people would take notice.
In 1979, Twitchell composed a mural of 6 Los Angeles artists. Intended as a monument to them, it is also a pun on the marketability of fine art. It is painted on the Torrance Unemployment Office.
Every day, about 250,000 people pass the 7th Street altarpiece. Artists Lita Albuquerque and Jim Morphesis are each nearly 2 stories tall and are observed by almost everyone who drives through downtown LA.
The face of Jim Morpheus is painted opposite Lita Albuquerque's, and the two, in their hands-by-cheeks position, are forever engaged in their own dialogue.
When it became known that the Olympics were coming to town, I decided not to do something that was blatantly Olympic, but something that was more human, and decided to do, again, an underground religious painting. So I painted Jesus and Mary Magdalene across the freeway from Jesus, with their hands up looking across as if to say, in terms of the Olympics, vulnerability. It's an Indian meaning, I have no weapons, you know, I have the strength to be vulnerable to you, kind of a statement. Plus, I had them doing it in such a way that it was an artist, because these were both artists posing for me, looking at the world. And in another sense, I hope that some people would see it as looking through a window, putting your hands up to a window, just sort of looking out, the concrete being glass, looking out of a window. And I used Lita Albuquerque as Mary Magdalene and Jim Morpheus as Jesus.
During the painting of his last 4 murals, Twitchell had been working slowly on a mural of enormous proportions with greater detail than he had ever painted before. It was to be a celebration of Southern California art and artists, and so he chose as a model fellow painter Ed Ruscha, a man whose work epitomizes Southern California art.
I decided to do what I had been doing with people in the movie industry, which is movie and television media. I decided to do it with the art world. And so I decided to get what I considered to be the Steve McQueen, if you will, of the art world. This guy that was epitomized everything, anybody that ever wanted to make it big in the art world. This was Ed Ruscha. So I wrote Ed Ruscha and told him what I wanted to do.
The man who painted his idols in the art world was fast becoming himself an idol. His fame was spreading and his art was appreciated. When Los Angeles wanted a mural to help celebrate its yearly marathon, the city turned to Twitchell.
He created a 4,000 square foot monument along a wall of one of the most traveled freeways in Los Angeles, near the airport. The marathon mural shows us 26 runners, each one representing 1 mile in the marathon.
Because of the Olympic murals, Dr. Burke, who was the president and founder of the Los Angeles Marathon, wanted a murals program. And he contacted me and wanted me to do some murals for the marathon. I went all over town looking for freeway murals. He wanted a freeway mural, until I found what I thought was the most ideal freeway mural. It was a perfect rectangle, long rectangle, and so immediately I thought of having a bunch of runners running as if they're running over the cars on that. And so we began talking about it, decided on a budget, and decided to have a person for every mile, 26 runners. We've got Rod Dixon from New Zealand, who was a 4-minute miler, a sub 4-minute miler, one of the great milers of all time. And there are friends. My wife is in that mural. I've got dear friends in it, and runners that are not necessarily great marathon runners, but just they run marathons. I would do it here in the studio, painted on sections of especially prepared material, and then put it on the wall with the same material that the paint is made out of, so it's one with the wall. I would go down and I had an assistant who I was teaching mural painting to, Andy Lesko, was my assistant during the during the painting of that, and he and I would go down and put up 1 or 2 figures in one day. People couldn't figure out what was going on because they were so used to, for years and years, seeing me out there painstakingly painting every day on all the previous projects, and suddenly I wouldn't ever be there, and then suddenly they would go by and there'd be 2 more figures on the wall. It was like very mysterious.
Artists throughout history have grappled with ways to invoke spiritual power. Kent Twitchell confronts the problem directly through a mesmerizing image of Christ holding the Bible in a mural simply titled The Word.
At Biola University, I had a couple of very close friends in the art department, Dan Callis and Barry Kramus. Barry Kramus is the chairman of the art department. And they had been trying to get me to come out to Biola for the art department and do a project, do a mural somewhere, a small mural in one of the lesser buildings. And over the course of a year talking about it and sketching some things, I decided that I really wanted to paint Jesus. I've been doing a lot of underground pieces, and I had painted a Jesus in a small barrio in south central Los Angeles. But I wanted to do a really painstaking classical Jesus, and that would be the place to do it. This is a top university, and it's an evangelical university. So we ended up getting the science building, which was about 30 feet high, and right in the very middle of campus, a beautiful spot with lawns around it and trees, and as the students would queue up in front of it to go into the cafeteria. And we put together, Barry Kramus put together a sort of a mural class where I would come in on a regular basis. I drew each section of the mural on parachute cloth, sections about this big, and glued them up on the wall with gel medium and put them together like a puzzle, so that all of a sudden there was this giant 28, 29-foot figure of Christ holding the Bible. We call it the Word. And we would all descend once or twice a week on the scaffolding and paint by the numbers, with a small number 2. Some of them actually had arteries they could paint with number 4 watercolor brush. It took us a long time because it was very detailed. And once the figure was done, then Andy and I just sort of freehanded the shadow.
The portraits behind us are over 9 stories high. This is the Harbor Freeway Overture. When complete, it will feature the 40 members of the Los Angeles Chamber Orchestra. Concertmaster Ralph Morrison and violinist Julie Gigante each have hands that are 7 feet long and smiles 3 feet wide.
Twitchell has developed a process that allows him to complete a massive museum-quality work like this in his art studio.
I had been working on the idea of not working right on site, but doing it on something else and putting it on site. When we're doing something major, like in the chamber orchestra or something, then I'll bring in my 7 assistants and we'll just go after it like a factory. I mix the colors, I put them in baby food jars, I label them 1 through 64. I decided it would be great to do the entire orchestra. The orchestra itself without the conductor. It's almost as if you're the conductor. They're all looking at you. I wanted it to be, again, I had a model made, a very comprehensive model that I could make little drawings and put them on paper, stick them to the walls, and really, which is the ideal way to work. So I started off with Ralph, painted the most detailed mural I've ever painted. The most important thing to me in my murals, first of all, is the eyes, because all viewers look into the eye. The expression is extremely important to me, the mouth. Not smiling, not unsmiling, but somewhere in between, somewhere universally in that sort of middle ground. second figure was simply one of the other violinists. I intend to make the sky at each wall darker and more stormy, as a sort of light, darker, until it's almost a black sky.
Twitchell has continually sought to paint his heroes. America's heroes are an ongoing theme in his works. His portrait monuments make us stop and ask, who is that? And why are they important?
A longtime hero of his is actor Charlton Heston. Heston is the subject of his latest work, and it's his dream mural. Heston will portray the quintessential cowboy, the central figure of the American West.
There are certain things that are just intuitive, and I really didn't set out intellectually to do a mural of Charlton Heston. I just always had it in mind that I wanted to do something with the image as an artist of Charlton Heston. It isn't so much in words that he represents this or this or this or this or this, just the totality, the intuitive kind of what he represents was when I was growing up in the 40s and the 50s, that clarity of purpose, that hope of the future. He embodies that, and I think he embodies that to a lot of people, and a lot of people I think will respond to that face and that mural in ways much as they did the Freeway Lady. So I'm going to have to put something up so that the gun goes a little bit higher, so it's resting right at the bottom of the street. And then his hands, I'll be able to bring his hands forward. If we keep it on focus, so we'll have a big picture of his hands holding the gun, just using the gun as a device for a pose. He'd be able to put his hands forward with the dusters going straight down like a sculpture. That'll be the first. We want to get that shot. That's the most important shot. That's probably the shot I use. The one I was thinking about last night. Growing up in the 40s and 50s, the West was the most incredible sort of backdrop for our daydreams that all of us had then, and we've lost it. We've gotten scattered and gone off into all kinds of areas, and there was again a certain clarity, a certain splash of sunset or sunrise and expanse and hope, and that's what I want the mural to be about. That.
I see that. I'm nervous when people have guns that they have not opened.
Yeah, I checked it too.
Yeah.
To get to him.
Yeah.
To,
is that still in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they wrote off.
And you want these in the lens, you said, my look.
Yeah, right into the middle of it. So that will make it easier for me to paint you as if you're looking at everybody. Yeah. I'm just going to start sculpting now.
Yeah, you do that.
Of course, I'm delighted to be memorialized by Mr. Twitchell on a 4-story building. And I think it's significant that it's as kind of a generic Western figure. The Western, along with jazz, are the only absolutely generic American art forms. Nobody else can do them. They are part of the American history and the American culture. I've done many Westerns, and I think I'm comfortable to be back in the saddle again.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Dark, this is dark. Oh, I see most of it. And then there's a shadow behind it. So, this is it. This is the most important part of the whole process is right now here today.
Yeah, looking at that light.
Everything has got to be perfect here at this point.
You can hold it with your arms folded, but you wouldn't.
All right.
Because you can't get at it then. So you can hold it in a ready position like this, or like this, but you wouldn't do this.
This is great. Okay, now I got to be careful that I don't get overwhelmed by how I like it. I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. I'm going to try to do the entire mural in earth colors so that it will read the hills, the mountains, the cliffs, the Monument Valley, all those colors that come naturally out of the earth will be used in the flesh and in the bandana and in the shirt, trousers, everything. This is it. And I like the way that you're evenly balanced, because that gives it a lot of strength architecturally when it's really tall. All right?
Kent, do you want to press it? The last
The
one?
last one. Yeah.
Don't screw it up. There you go.
The work on the Charlton Heston mural has just begun. The designs need to be finalized. Murals of such large proportions are expensive, so the funds must be raised. And perhaps the most important aspect of a Twitchell mural, the perfect location must be found.
So the next time you're stuck in traffic and you look out the window, see if there's a face staring back.
And if the eyes are speaking to your soul, you can bet you're looking at another portrait mural by Kent Twitchell.